You're listening to Left at the Valley 2.0, Atheist, Skeptic, and Humanist Radio.
Hi, this is Amy with a Y from Secular Soup.
Hi, this is Oren Ross.
Hi, this is Candace Gorham.
Hi, this is Andrew Torres.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ben Davis.
Hello, this is Dr. Darrell Ray.
Hi, this is Dr. Hector Garcia.
Hi, this is Mike Wiseman of The Bible Says What.
Hi, this is Thomas Westbrook of Holy Kool-Aid.
Hey, this is Robert Stanley from the Right to Reason podcast.
Hi, I'm Steve Grumbine. I'm the host of Macro and Cheese.
I'm Dave Fitzgerald.
And I'm Dana
We can start again. Absolutely.
I'm Dave Fitzgerald.
And I'm Dana Fritz.
And we took a left at the valley.
And then I masturbated after that.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from Soak, BC, Alligator, Florida, and Batshit, Texas, this is Left of the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and dating me is like biting into an oatmeal raisin cookie, then realizing it's actually chocolate chip, and also an hour later, an edible.
Hey, Kevin, I prefer the oatmeal raisin.
Ooh. Joining me as usual is the team that used to have a handle on life, but then it broke.
Sounds about right.
Her therapist says she has a preoccupation with revenge, and she said, "We'll see about that." Sabrina.
Very
nice.
You know who you are.
He always takes life with a grain of salt, a slice of lemon, and a tequila shot. Brent Lee.
Tis I.
And the last thing he wants to do is to hurt you, but it's on the list. Benjamin.
It is on the list, and you're next.
Guys, welcome back.
You know who you are.
Hope you had a great time.
I work for Sabrina.
I guess I want to start out with a bit of an apology to our listeners. We've been on a bit of a hiatus for the past couple of weeks, and we've had some technical issues, but hey, we're back, and that's what matters. And this show is also brought to you by our patrons. You too can become one of our patrons to help this show grow. Just go to patreon.com/LATV and help us, and you get some unrestricted access behind the scenes and all that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you're wondering why my hand is broken on the show there, if you're watching the camera there, not just the audio, well, let me tell you something. Do not take your Reese's Pieces cup away from Sabrina without her looking, because she just hammered the damn thing to them.
I told you.
Yeah. So also pay us some money because you're on my list if you don't.
Patreon.com/LATV.
Sounds good.
Do it.
And later on in the second half of the show, we'll be talking to Dr. Ben Davis, returning champion. Dr. Ben Davis will talk about nuclear power and is it safe? So we'll be doing that in the second half of the show. But first, let's do our usual chit chat. All right. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, we just had Halloween, and you guys might be interested to hear that archaeologists discovered what seems to be the earliest recording of a ghost encounter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a 3,500-year-old tablet that's actually in the British Museum, and they realized that actually on it has the recording of a ghost encounter and also instructions on how to avoid them. So
really,
believing in ghosts goes way back apparently.
Wow,
it's an ancient
that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's an ancient Mesopotamian tablet.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the same age as the oldest your mom joke.
Mama.
It is 3,500 years ago was the 3,500 years ago was the oldest recorded your mom joke.
There you go. That's perfect.
Apparently, the tablet seems to point out that the ghost is of a middle-aged woman who needs to be returned to the underworld. And apparently, it also includes a bit of a ritual that involved dressing for green at dawn and 2 vessels of beer and incantation. So there's the whole spell thing going on here too as well.
Are you sure these two things aren't related? Like an old middle-aged woman who needs to go the fuck away? Come on.
That could very well be. It could be totally misinterpreted. Apparently, the Mesopotamian lore, the ghosts often return just to cause trouble, but they're not evil. They're kind of like mischievous.
Little tricksters.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, fun fact, a middle-aged woman back then was about 22.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, so far, all the ghosts. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Someone arguing with me about that they're like, the average age was only like 50 or whatever because so many babies died. There's lots of people live till 80 because so many babies died. It drove the average age down.
The average, yeah, I've heard that too. But it's funny because like even today, most of the reports of ghosts are like, "Oh, they took my dishes back out of this, after I put them away, put them back in the sink." Like,
So,
that's dark.
we were actually talking about ghosts this weekend because Amy's brother used to have this rat snake that would get out and it would slither behind the books and the end of its tail would whip and cause the books to fly across the room.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cute.
So, if you didn't know there was a snake in there, you could just walk in there and you see books just suddenly flying off the shelf and it's a ghost, right? It's a ghost. It got to be, right? No other explanation.
And if you see the snake, still a ghost because they're,
It's
they're
a ghost
scary.
snake.
It's funny when it comes to ghosts. I remember dating this girl and she had a teddy bear that was actually tied up, like almost like BDSM tied up teddy bear. And
Shabari.
Yeah,
And
Shabari.
she's an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. I said,
Okay.
what's with the teddy bear? Is that she said she totally believed that the bear was cursed, and if you untied it, let it free, it would just cause havoc. I said, really?
What?
You've been watching Annabelle too much or something, man.
Yeah, like Chucky, but like the teddy bear version.
Yeah, exactly.
Please tell me I don't know this person.
Mr. Cuddles wants blood.
Right, same with the little knife.
That's a perfect idea for the next horror movie. According to Stats Canada, religious affiliation is at an all-time low in the country, here in Canada. It's down to 68%. These stats actually range from 1985.
Wait a second. So we're still 68% of a religious
affiliation.
So you're saying nearly 70% of our population is still religious?
No, not necessarily religious. They just identify with a certain denomination of religion.
Right? It doesn't mean that they're a church attending or
exactly.
Yeah, because how many people, if you ask them, they're like, "Yeah, I'm Catholic," but they haven't been to church in 18 years.
Exactly.
It's like a cultural thing half the time,
Yeah.
I was
there
raised
was,
with this.
there was a high of 82% at some point. 23% of Canadians reported attending a religious activity, which is not a whole lot when you think of, even you said 68.
You mean
but
a
only,
religious activity like going to church?
Yes.
Okay,
that's that activity. Yes,
again,
that's the
this
activity.
is another overly specific term because it's like a religious event. So if my niece gets baptized, I'm going to go to that.
Yeah.
It's a religious event that I went to as an atheist.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Although as an atheist, I probably wouldn't admit it.
No, yeah.
The atheism negates that event there.
Yeah.
When they were asked if religious or spiritual belief was important, only 54% said yes.
There you go.
So we're kind of on par then, I would say, with the U.S. because it's like 51 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty damn close.
That's good. Okay, good. We're going in the right direction.
That's right.
You guys might not remember, about 10 to 15 years ago, there was a push to vaccinate against the HPV, the human papillovirus.
Yep.
And not the HIV like Donald Trump thought it was.
No, that's actually a vaccine I refused.
That was one of his brilliant moments. Remember that? When he actually went to Bill Gates and asked him what was the difference between HIV and HPV. This is Donald Trump.
That happened?
Yes, that actually happened. That actually happened.
That won't even slip by me because I don't. There were so many though; it's hard to remember.
Good thing he's a stable genius.
You're right.
Of course, the HPV virus is much more dangerous for women. Since that push,
they only vaccinate women here.
No, I think both.
They vaccinate males in the U.S. for sure.
Yeah, no, not. Wait, I stand to be corrected. But when my daughter was getting it, or they were asking her to get it, so that would be about 8 years ago. It was only the girls in the class that got it.
Yeah, because males are relatively unaffected by it.
And I refused it. Just saying.
Really?
Yes, that is one vaccine I refused to get my child.
Really interesting.
The only one.
Since that push, cervical cancers have been down 87% amongst women in the UK. This is out of the UK, by the way.
Okay, but the vaccinations were only happening to children and young women. So how is it all of a sudden 8 years later it's down? Well, I mean, cervical cancer is much more prevalent among older women.
Yeah. There are apparently apparently the report says there are also hundreds of HPV strains, but only 2 of them actually are known to cause cancer. The younger the vaccinated, usually when they try to around 12, 13 years of age, the more efficient. And the study also estimates that in the UK alone, 448 cancers were actually avoided because of this push for vaccination for HPV.
Wow. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah,
I'm
good-
still not.
That's
for
good
it,
news.
but it is good news. I
That's good
guess.
news.
Yeah,
I suppose.
You guys remember Mark Parhar?
No. Well, I'm bad with names. Describe.
We talked about him. Yeah, we talked about him quite a while back. He was here in BC. This guy was a flat earther who defied the Canadian authorities by traveling to the U.S. for a conference on flat Earth
During COVID.
during COVID, and he came back not isolating himself, and he was arrested, sent to jail, and then he sued the Canadian government for kidnapping. Remember that now?
okay. Now I remember this. I remember this.
Vaguely. Yes,
talked about
yes, I do remember. This is pre-Benjamin, right?
The kidnapping kicked it off. Now I can remember. Got the juices flowing.
Anyway.
Yeah, he sued the Canadian government for kidnapping. The judge kind of laughed him out of the courtroom too.
Mhm.
So he was also teaching hot yoga, and he was teaching hot yoga as a protection from COVID. Well, yes, and this is the guy right here in New Westminster, which is
Oh
the
my
town next door,
God!
right?
Town next by town next. He literally means across the street.
Yes. So
Holy shit.
yeah, we're actually on the border of New West.
Yeah.
So guess what happened to him?
He got COVID.
He's dead.
Oh my God! He died from COVID, didn't he?
Yeah, he died from COVID.
Oh my God.
There's we suspect at this point it hasn't been quite released, but there's some videos, some of the last videos of him were showing him reporting coughing, fatigue, chills, etc., etc. He said he took Iremectin, of course. And
Christ.
yeah, so
I'm sorry. What is
which
his
is
name again?
Mark. Is it Parhar or Parham or anyway? something like
Okay,
that.
sorry. I'm just gonna pull this up. I need this for Google or for Facebook art.
So I need it for my vision board.
Yeah.
So now the guy, which is ironic because he took a fake medicine for a supposed fake disease.
Yeah.
He was claiming
Yeah.
COVID was fake, but yet you took ivermectin to try to cure it
48 years
somehow.
old, people.
Yeah,
48 years old.
So let me tell you, with Thanksgiving coming up here in the U.S., I've got a very helpful suggestion for people when dealing with crazy conspiracy family members who bring up things like ivermectin. What you have to do is out crazy the crazy. So when they say, "Oh, well, I'm going to get some ivermectin," it's like, "Well, did you hear ivermectin is owned by Merck and they're using it and associated with Bill Gates to get the 5G out there?"
Ooh,
Solid. Yeah.
good. Beat them at their own game.
Just out crazy them. Just add a whole nother level of conspiracy on top of it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Be the crazy, more crazy.
That's
So
it.
what do you mean? You mean the Earth is flat? You believe in the Earth? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm
flat
sorry.
earther. This is all a simulation. The Earth's not flat. It doesn't exist.
His quote that I'm reading here in this article that I just pulled up says that horse parasite remover. So I did take that, and I feel like 40 to 50% better. But I am a little bit down.
48 to 50% better?
How do you
After
measure
days
that?
of diarrhea.
I'm exactly 50 units better. Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And
God.
then in an earlier video, it shows him coughing and complaining about being sick, but denying what he has, what he called convid.
Convid.
Yeah.
Convid. Okay.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah.
I like the
this-
wordplay.
Yeah.
The irony is he thinks it's a con, but yet he's taking medicine to beat it.
Yeah.
He's taking a
Take the
fake
con.
to beat a
Right.
fake somehow.
Right?
Yeah, this is the world of the idiot.
Mhm.
Anyway, so
Yeah, they haven't said that he died from COVID, but let's just
yeah,
be real
let's-
here.
let's call it what it is. 90%
It's
sure
like
that
the
is
other
that.
COVID denier that I know that's dead. So
Yeah.
it's
So good riddance. I'm not going to lose any sleep over him. I hate to say
no,
that. I hate
I
to be
don't-
an ass. And last but certainly not least, we got to talk quickly. Especially, I want to hear what Brent and Benjamin think about the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Jump. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's great. I can't wait for his
want me to bring you
podcast
some
on the
butter
Daily
right
Wire.
It sets a very dangerous legal precedence in this country.
So actually, now that did I save the picture? I believe I did. I did. So in light of this, I just want to read something that was put out, and it's amazing because it came from the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.
Yeah.
Oh,
We actually got something that
So-
us atheists are going to agree with a church.
and I believe I have no reason to believe it's not true. I didn't actually verify this, but I believe it to be true anyway. I have no reason not to believe it. And I did look up this person, and she does exist. Anyways, it's called a pastoral message on the Rittenhouse acquittal. Dear Church, In the book of Leviticus, we read, "You shall not render an unjust judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great. With justice you shall judge your neighbor." 19:15. Our social message on community violence urges us to become more involved in countering the reality and fear of violence in our communities and our neighbors' communities, pursuing justice and seeking peace, no matter how long the journey or complex the challenge. When a child is allowed to become a vigilante in our society without recourse, we are forced to confront the idols of our society: guns, violence, and white supremacy. To be sure, this is not about one person, but indeed about all of us together. Today's acquittal is an injustice. It points to the disorder in which we live. As we seek to restore justice, so also will we restore God to God's rightful place at the center of our life together in Christ. The Reverend Elizabeth A. Eaton, presiding bishop, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.
Now, aside the reference of God at the end there, she's making perfect sense right there. All of it.
Yeah.
So good on her.
Yeah, good on her. And you know what? I'm shocked there's a female pastor that's
Yeah.
evangelical.
So
I was
anyway.
shocked to see that to begin with.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, that's because
bringing
that's
it
not
on
allowed.
Real.
Does it really depend on the denomination? I guess. Yeah.
It's Lutheran.
Lutherans are pretty hardcore.
Well, I think it depends on the Lutheran church. You have different kinds of Lutheran.
Right?
I mean, you have different kinds of all of them, but like, yeah, there are some strict.
Evangelical written. It is from there. I just
there's
Googled
all
it,
kinds
and
of
it's
articles
on the
about it.
elca.org, which is obviously the Evangelical.
Good for her. Good for
So,
her. And,
yes.
no, and I'm not gonna be above saying that. Yeah, I totally agree with the pastor on this.
Yeah.
On what she wrote there.
So, by the way, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America is one of the largest Christian denominations in the United States, with nearly 3.3 million members in more than 8,900 worshiping communities across the 50 states and in the Caribbean region.
Fantastic.
So there you go.
The whole issue that I have with this whole thing there is, a lot of people are saying, well, if you're attacking somebody with a gun, you can expect to be shot. Yeah, that to some extent that makes sense. But
he shot first.
Well, no, I get that. I get that too. But the point is I find it hard to believe. I mean, if you told me right now there was a riot going in Langley, I find it hard to believe that I would pick up a gun, drive all the way to another town, much
He
less
didn't
another
pick up the gun. He got he drove there and then he got the gun.
yes. But nonetheless, why would you go defend a business you have no idea? You don't. It doesn't belong to you.
Oh, he went there to cause shit. We all know he went there to cause shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. Like what I mean, he literally said on camera like a week before that he wanted to shoot shoplifters.
Yeah,
and then of course they wouldn't let that be entered into the evidence because the prosecutors were idiots and didn't put it in at the right time.
I heard a theory that they were looking to cause a mistrial because they knew that the judge was extremely biased and they were trying to get a mistrial so that they could do it again.
Here's the thing, though. Everybody's biased. The whole thing is like a guy went and defended the police and the property that the police were protecting and killed 2 protesters. The prosecutors are on the side of the police. They have a huge bias against those protesters,
and
no matter what.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the trial. My opinions were formed long before the trial. I totally found him guilty beforehand. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. I'm not even going to change my mind. Like, I don't think there's a way you could. But so I don't really know. But okay, 2 out of 3 died. So who didn't die? The first guy?
The third one that he shot. The one that was coming at him with a gun got shot in the.
That's the paramedic, right?
Okay,
the paramedic, yes.
So the first guy that he shot, didn't he just like throw a bag at him or something?
Yeah,
so
he attacked him with a bag.
Self-defense? So the guy throws a bag at him. How is shooting him self-defense?
Well,
That's not self-defense.
Because this is America.
And he threw the bag and then he chased him, right?
Okay.
And then he got close enough
is he
to
the guy
where
that
he
chased
could.
him with the skateboard?
No, that's the second.
No, that's a different guy. Yeah,
Okay.
and then and the guy kind of looked like he might have been reaching for the gun, and he shot him. That's what happened. He allowed him to get close enough.
The
then
first guy
waited for him to
shot
grab at him, and then shot him.
had a gun.
That's
The
what
first
he
guy
did
shot-
on purpose.
Yeah, obviously.
That was
right?
fully thought out and intentional.
Yeah, because you see him like run and then stop and then wait for him to come and then shoots him. And then from there he gets on the phone with his buddy, says, "Hey, I just shot somebody," and then runs away. you know, and then that's when he gets into the altercation with the
See, the
because
other
everybody
two
was
guys-
like, "Did you just shoot this guy? What happened? What happened?" And he wouldn't answer any questions. He just
The
ran
two
away.
guys that pull a gun on the guy that just shot a guy. I don't see how that's self-defense either, because those two people are defending themselves, and then he shoots them. Like, fuck
Right.
you, you're the one
Or
doing
it's-
the shooting, asshole. I'm
within
sorry, in
this-
Canada, he'd be in jail. Fuck,
Right.
he wouldn't have been able to shoot no one. He would have fucking come out with a gun. The cops would have been like, "What the fuck do you think you're doing? You're under arrest."
Right, and it was funny too, because like in the trial, they basically dispelled the whole good guy with the gun thing, because they were saying that he was the aggressor, the guy that was shooting. What the apparent, like what was apparent to everybody was a mass shooter, and he was shooting at him, and they were saying that he was the aggressor at that moment. It's insane. It's so fucking. They're going back on their own shit in this one.
So
I actually
Benjamin,
did
I'm assuming you feel the same way.
What's that?
I'm assuming Benjamin, you
Oh.
feel the same way.
Yeah, where you
Yeah,
at? with
this is I just can't. This
I'm with
is-
you.
I think
there-
you're right,
hopefully
though,
it
about
doesn't
the
set a
precedent.
very, yeah, hopefully it doesn't set a very bad precedent.
does.
But
Oh yeah, no, they're
Scary.
gonna Proud Boys are gonna be everywhere at every fucking protest from now on, and they're gonna have itchy fucking trigger fingers.
Yeah,
Mm.
It's fucking
absolutely.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's disturbing. Okay, all right. Well, moving on to something a bit more fun. Sabrina, you got a top
Fun than
10?
that?
I do. I have.
Is it the top 10 ways to get away with murdering people?
No, that would be a good idea. Sorry. So, I wanted to do something all mushy. So, anyways, after you've been in a relationship for a really long time, you forget how important it is to tell that person you love them. So, for today's list, I thought I'd get a little bit mushy, like I said, and give you the top 10 reasons you should always say I love you.
Oh,
no, that's cool.
Is it slapping her on the ass and say, "Get it, girl"?
Oh, maybe.
That's good.
Should have kept that for Valentine's Day.
No, I don't do Valentine's Day. Every day
Look,
is
I
Valentine's.
get out of Valentine's Day because last year all the power went out. Like there's a storm. The year before that, I had to get my appendix out. It's
Oh,
all
my.
part of my master plan.
Quite honestly, Kevin gets out of Valentine's Day forever because I do not celebrate. I don't believe in Valentine's Day. I truly believe it should be every day of the year.
There's a passage in the Bible that says you can appease a woman by throwing her a piece of cheese, and that's what I do.
Mhm.
I throw her a piece of cheese.
With the Reese's peanut butter cup.
I mean, cheese is pretty fucking good. I mean, as long as it's Gouda and like one of those big wheels, you know, I'm
it's a Gouda.
My lunch is a piece of Gouda, some cheddar, a little bit of
Anyway.
Baby Bell. Number 10. Love is an action.
right.
As you don't, if you don't verbally express it, it can become unimportant and fake. A lack of expression can lead to the assumption that love is no longer present in the relationship. So don't assume your chosen person knows that you love them. Make sure you tell them in addition to showing them, and that you also show them. You have to show them.
You know, you're petting a cat like Dr. Evil right
I
now.
can't help it. This is my favorite way to play.
Got to get the pinky in.
Tell people you love you, but you're petting the cat like, "Good evening, Mr. Ball."
Well, it's her absolute favorite. She lays on her back and asks me to rub her belly. Number 9, saying I love you can renew a relationship. Simply saying I love you in a tender, loving way can help you reconnect to your loved one, especially if you feel like your relationship has gone stale or old. Taking the time to focus on your loved one may be exactly what is needed to bring your relationship back to life. Number 8, love is an emotional connection. Telling your chosen person that you love them shows that you understand the difference between emotional connection and physical attraction. This is a very important distinction to make in a relationship. The emotional connection is what is needed to sustain the relationship, and of course, physical attraction doesn't. Also, number 7, love is contagious. Neuroscience research shows that the more you focus on your love, gratitude, and appreciation for others, the more they will feel the same emotions. Give what you want to receive, and you will be surprised at how much comes back to you. Number 6, saying I love you makes you more empathetic and positive. It strengthens the connection to your loved ones. It can also decrease the activation of fear centers in your brain. In short, telling your chosen person you love them helps you maintain a positive attitude. Number 5, saying I love you makes you more loving. The more you focus on how much you love someone, the more you will love them. Not only that, it makes you more loving overall. Examining how much you love your chosen person helps you appreciate and love other people in your life. Number 4.
I'm
Sorry, the
I'm
cat.
just laughing
It's
at the cat.
She's my chosen person. So
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what the fuck, Kevin? That was sweet. That was sweet. Stop laughing.
Yeah, I was actually starting to have some
Just laughing
emotion.
at the cat. The cat's just like,
this is the cat.
she's got that look on her face. It's like, oh, I want some more.
She's a 12-year-old who's been doing this for 12 years.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Got it
random.
down.
Let me interrupt real quick. They may have a new world's oldest cat at 26 years old.
Oh, I would love that to be my baby. My other kitty cat just passed away at 20.
That cat can drink.
Yeah.
He can rent a car.
Yeah. Number 4, saying I love you also makes you more trusting. Expressing how much you love someone can help you and them feel more secure and trusting in your relationship. It also leads to more open communication, the sharing of thoughts and emotions, and more positive feelings overall. Number 3, saying I love you shows appreciation, which increases the overall satisfaction in your relationship. The simple act of saying I love you shows your chosen person that they are appreciated. Number 2, saying I love you can lower stress. It sounds cliche, but it's real. People in committed relationships tend to have lower stress levels. Telling someone you love them can literally help lower their stress levels, so why not do it? And number 1, the most important reason to say I love you is it'll actually help you live longer. Deepening your connection with others through the expression of love can improve your physical health. It has been reported that marriage, especially for men, increases the lifespan significantly. Women, too, are helped by relationships and decreased levels of heart disease and also increased lifespans. So it only makes sense to always tell your loved ones how you feel.
Aww.
There,
Sweet.
I'm done being
I
mushy.
like that.
We'll see if my cat will
So
leave me alone.
I
Can't
believe that though. I think.
But
I
have
think
you
you're right.
considered
Gotta say it.
this? Emotions are fucking dumb.
Yeah,
the
they kind of
birds.
suck.
Well, you know, it's part of life, I guess. We're
Yeah.
emotional beings, so it happens.
Yeah, that is very, very true.
All right, Benjamin. You got things that make you
Things that make you go.
I do.
fantastic. What do you got on this?
Okay, so this is the story about Doug.
I like Doug.
Doug?
Doug. Well, you see, in New Zealand, a couple were weeding their garden, and the guy weeding, he struck something huge just below the surface. So they started digging around, trying to figure out what it was. It was like a giant growth, and they're like, what's going on here, right? So finally they pulled it out, and what they found was a large 17-pound potato.
What?
What?
17
pounds.
Potato?
17-pound potato.
Holy
That thing's
god
huge.
damn.
Is that
It's
Doug?
A giant potato that they named Doug
Aww.
after the
It's
way
a
they found
boy.
him.
I love it.
It looks like
Possibly-
a giant potato orgy, is what it looks like.
Yeah, possibly the largest potato on record.
Were they trying to grow potatoes?
7.9 kilograms or 17.4 pounds for you people in the U.S.
Jesus.
It's equal to about a normal regular sack of potatoes or one small dog.
Yeah.
Or a small dog.
Or my cat.
Yeah, bag of potatoes coming down either 10 or 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
This cat
yeah.
here is probably about that. She's probably about 17 pounds.
no, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
She's chunky.
That's a
fat
that's
cat.
a chunky cat.
She's not that chunk.
She's chunky.
Yeah, so they put a hat on him. They put him on Facebook. They take him for walks.
Does he have a stroller?
The potato?
The potato.
What? I find it
Yeah.
something of a conversation starter.
That's awesome.
I think I spun for a walk.
Just the thing that happened.
The
They didn't
ladies
try to
love it.
do it specifically. He says no gardening secrets here. He usually just throws a bunch of cow manure and straw into their garden and sees what happens.
Okay.
I don't know what these cows have been
So
eating,
he did
but
plant potatoes.
No, he hadn't planted any potatoes. He said that they've been growing cucumbers in that area of their garden before the weeds took over.
wow.
It was a potato weed? The
So they don't
is
even know how long the potato has been growing.
So for all we know, it's a prehistoric potato.
Was there a nuclear plant anywhere around?
Hey,
Just saying. Just saying.
Oh, fantastic! Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just imagine that, like digging in your garden because you're weeding around where you're trying to grow some damn cucumbers, and you're like, "What the hell is this?"
Well,
and then
what-
giant potato.
When
Yeah,
you have
what
a
do
giant
do?
potato like that, well, of course it's a biological thing. Not organic, but I mean it's going to decompose at some point. It's going to start rotting. So I mean, how do they
Maybe.
preserve it?
He says it's starting to smell a little bit, but
Yeah.
they have put it in the freezer for now.
Okay, that makes sense. You know what?
not
Potatoes
gonna-
kept in cold storage will keep for a long time.
They
But
will.
think how good that baked potato would be. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Think
Yeah, but how do you
long
know
as
you have to
shit.
bake that thing for?
Like build
2
an
hours.
underground oven, it would take a few days.
Yeah.
Man, would that feed a lot of people?
That would
No,
be so good.
Here's what I would do.
And chili.
I'm gonna throw like plastic wrap on the table, and I'm gonna make a giant pile of French fries and just make a variety of toppings. And me and my friends are gonna go buck wild.
But think about you could make the world's largest baked potato,
That's what
and
I'm
then
thinking.
you'd be in the Guinness Book of
You know
World
how
Records
much poutine I can
for,
make with
like,
that potato.
ever.
You know how much poutine I can make with that potato?
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
world's largest poutine.
There we go.
What is poutine?
That's a plan.
Compromise.
Well, cool. Where's this? New Zealand.
Yeah,
It's too
we're a
far.
little bit far away.
I would have said, let's go down there, steal that potato, and make it.
Well, I mean, you're making poutine, so it doesn't matter the size of the potato as long as it's not tiny. Come on.
You're pronouncing it wrong. It's Pootie Tang. Okay, you guys don't get it.
Some of this
That's a
food-
whole movie written by the disgraced Louis C.K., by the way.
No, oh, really?
Yes, he wrote Pootie Tang.
Oh, I did not know that.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but he's a giant fucking asshole, so.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. He's
Yeah.
pretty.
He's like, you're going to
awful.
watch me jerk off, and I'm going to take advantage of the situation. That's like beyond fucking weird, by the
gross.
way.
Very gross.
Not to kink shame, but that non-consenting bullshit is not kink shaming. That's fucked up ass shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly. All right, moving on. Brent Lee, you got another.
All
brother?
right, I do. And so this is a new guy. I haven't really seen this guy before. Just recently. His name is Mario Murillo.
Ooh,
That
that sounds like a Mario brother.
Yeah.
yeah, pretty, yeah, he does
Really
sound
Italian.
with the name Mario and all. Yeah,
Mario's last name is Mario, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
his name's
it is.
Mario.
It's me, Mario.
And Luigi Mario. Pff, it's
And
fucked up.
Luigi
Poor
Mario is
Luigi.
fucked up. Yeah.
You know, but no, this guy he came to stardom starting in San Francisco and did these different what do you call it where they come out and do like like a convention sort of thing, but what do they call it? I can't remember.
Like a
Seminar?
revival?
Yeah, like a seminar. No, it's like an evangelical thing where they're trying to spread the word of the gospel.
A
Anyway,
revival.
a revival. Thank you.
He said it twice.
Oh, I didn't. But
Okay.
yeah, it was planning on being for 4 days, and they ended up staying for 6 months, which
Really?
I thought was kind of weird. That was like that was his first big hurrah, you know.
What is he, some kind of hippie?
I think so, yeah, because it was around the 70s when he was up and coming, you know,
Oh.
in San Francisco. So
Yeah,
it was
this is
part of the
work.
Jesus movement.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, he's well, he's batshit. So we got a clip to play.
All right. Well, I'm ready to cue this up, I guess. Hey, let's go.
Yeah.
This is the most demonic thing I've seen in a long time. The indoctrination of children, giving an experimental thing to children and without answering the question. See, to me, this is the worst form of bullying and peer pressure that you can possibly use in society. And these adults, I don't know if they have a conscience or not.
Wait.
Okay,
No.
pause it.
Okay.
So
I got to jump in here
Okay.
real quick with this. So it's one of those cases where they're like, you know what? Here's where we're going to use one of the left's words against them. And I'm
Yeah.
going to call this bullying because the left hates bullying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's not that.
First of
and
all,
indoctrination. They use both.
First of
They don't
all,
like to say that.
indoctrination and peer pressure. The church
I was just
invented
gonna
those
say,
things. I mean,
I'm
are you
like,
kidding
is
me?
this guy talking against the church or something? Is what I
Indoctrinating
thought
the
when I
kids.
first-
This is your special-
Indoctrination, bullying, that's like going to church, right?
Yes, that's your specialty. That's what you guys have been doing for at least 2,000 years. Every religion does that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's just a ton of projection, you know. And keep in mind, what he's saying is indoctrination is like saying it's okay for to get the vaccine. That's indoctrination.
Which it's not. Let's be very clear here.
Okay.
It's factual information. You're just learning things.
All
Like,
right, so
We
listen to
follow
this.
science here.
Listen to this. My kid got sick, and that doctor tried to give him Tamiflu, and I said, "No, you indoctrinating bully, get the fuck out of here."
I mean, this is so ridiculous. I mean, you want to do a very simple scientific experiment. If you guys are indoctrinating or bullying kids into religion, it's very simple. Just ask a kid if they want to go to church or not.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Say, no, you don't have to go to church with mom and dad. You can just stay home and sleep in on Sunday. Guess what's going to happen? Just guess what's going to happen.
There may be a couple.
99% of them. 99%
There will
of
be
them.
some, because there's a whole level of church where they do all that fun stuff for kids to bring the kids in, so the kids are excited about church.
Right. Well, it's like, and it's with this, I always have to do this to say define indoctrination, because they constantly misunderstand what that means. Really, when they say indoctrination, they mean anything that gets in the way of their indoctrination.
Yes,
That's exactly it.
You know, so any information that might conflict with what they'd like to believe is true, indoctrination.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way, like, how dishonest they are with shit.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we can keep going out, and this gets crazy, and we kind of covered like what this is about on unapologetics last week. So
I kind of want to put a red cap on him now.
Yeah.
Probably got a couple, you know.
Not like a Maggie cap, but like a Mario cap with a big M on it.
Because the question of children is going to be the defeating force of the left. It's what's going to get you. If you're a leftist, please look at me. And even, you know,
What's
the
up,
funny
guys?
part is
What's
I
up?
can tell you this, and you're still going to go down that pernicious road and make that hideous mistake. Going after the children.
Hideous
When
mistake.
the men's gay chorus in San Francisco sang and said, "We're going to go after your children," there
What?
was a massive backlash.
Hold on.
And there's going to be to this Sesame Street.
Wait,
What he's here's what he's talking about. I looked it up. Yes, it was this the San Francisco gay men's chorus faces backlash for "We're Coming for Your Children." It was a part of the song, and it was like tongue in cheek and was like meant to be funny, because he's saying, "Yeah, we're gonna make your children. We're gonna come for your children and get them to love each other and accept each other and accept everybody and stuff." You know?
Right.
Oh no,
That's how the gays are coming for your children.
It was a joke. Yeah, it was an obvious joke, but like,
we're
of
gonna
course,
teach them how to treat each other like humans and with respect. Oh, how dare you?
We've talked about this before. This is the problem with the right. They have no sense of humor.
No.
They try to be funny. They have no sense
They
of humor.
think they're funny.
So a joke goes way over the head.
And then they don't realize they're
triggers them.
being laughed at. Like
right.
You know, I'm in a lot of safe spaces where I have to watch my P's and Q's and be very helpful and caring and loving. And if I see something that I don't like, I just gotta scroll past it. But I'm in a couple of shit posting groups, and you know, it's so easy. Like, they just take it like hook, line, and sinker. They're sitting there crawling all over one comment I made, making probably 3 or 4 different comments on the same comment, calling me triggered.
That's it. Yeah.
It's like,
You're the
I haven't
snowflake.
even said
That's-
anything to you, and you're calling me triggered. You're coming at me. Who's the triggered one? Like, come on.
Yeah, as I like
Exactly.
to say, if you run into someone in public with a "Let's Go Brandon" shirt, walk up to them and ask them, "Why are you too much of a snowflake to actually say it?"
Yeah, exactly. And then say, "Fuck you, Joe Biden."
Yeah. So you can say "fuck Joe Biden." That's all right. We're all
We said
grown
fuck
ups.
Trump. Nobody cared.
Yeah, we didn't care about Trump.
We're allowed by mom and dad.
Yeah. Anyway.
We've said this before. It's like the 5-year-olds having the secret code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Go,
they're so
Brandon.
special. And I actually have someone on my Facebook that I'm gonna have to block because I just can't handle what I'm seeing coming from her mouth. She's like, She's like, I cried when he got the not guilty verdict. It's like, oh my god. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, moving on.
Let's keep playing
going.
this. More crazy people.
And there's going to be a line drawn by parents, and they're gonna switch this off, and you're gonna watch this firestorm, because once you make it about the children, that's when all of the left, right, Republican, Democrat labels go out the window. If you come after my child, I am done with you. I'm finished with you. And that's what you're going to see is the end result of this attempt by Sesame Street to indoctrinate children and their parents.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah, because Big Bird got vaccinated. Again, it's already happened before, and that didn't trigger them. Now it triggers them. But so here's the thing that kills me is what we're trying to do by saying vaccinate the children is to keep them alive. I thought you were pro-life.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's proof they're just pro-birth, people.
But dude, if you played this clip like I don't know, like well enough in the future to where we forgot about Sesame Street, everybody would be like, "What the fuck is he? Why is Sesame Street
talking about Big Bird?
Dude,
Where did that
Sesame
come from?"
Street
You
is
know, like,
eternal.
what are you talking about?
It is eternal. Everyone will always know what he's talking about. Sesame Street will always be relevant, and I will. You can't tell me otherwise.
It just didn't seem like anything he was saying had anything to do with the fucking Sesame Street. And then he says it, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Kind of sort of alluded to it, I think, at the beginning, but he was in such a rant that we didn't really hear it.
Oh,
yeah.
God. When you find yourself ranting against Sesame Street, you know that you've got nothing to go on. You got really nothing.
It's like I'm so mad at Sesame Street because it taught my child how to read, and now they actually read the Bible and realized what a giant pile of bullshit it was.
Yeah,
that's the thing is, I don't know. I honestly was an adult before I realized that Snuffleupagus was like a made up.
Yeah, he's imaginary.
Nope. They retcon that Snuffleupagus is actually real.
I think we've actually had
We
this conversation.
had this whole fight before.
Yeah, and I agree. If you're telling me that that's what happened, I've stopped watching Sesame Street 20 years ago. But anyway, doesn't matter.
This episode is brought by the letter B.
Well, the whole point is that I didn't
and the number
absorb
12.
half of the things, and I'm convinced now that Bert and Ernie are gay, and so like those are things that were there when I was a kid, and I didn't recognize it for what it was, even if my parents did.
Yeah, because Bert and Ernie were always doesn't matter. It was always just that comparison to like those two uncles that you had. Were just roommates, the old roommates.
I had
your uncle and his roommate Tom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And every time that your parents said the word roommate, your uncle would cringe. But he didn't say anything.
Oh God! All right. Thank you so much for that, Bradley. Let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Dr. Ben Davis about nuclear power. Is it safe? Is it the way of the future? So stick with us.
For future reference, Kevin, can we have only one Ben on the show? I know I go by Benjamin, but it still counts.
Sorry.
Calm down, Ben.
I'll rename him just for you.
That's why we say Dr. Ben. Unless
So he gets the doctor title, and I'm just regular old Benjamin.
You're just regular Ben.
We gotta call you producer Ben. Doctor and producer Ben.
Oh God! All right, so stay with us.
You're listening to my favorite podcast, Left at the Valley 2.0.
I'm Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.
Hi, I'm God, and I just want to make sure to tell you not to listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud. That's Unapologetics with an X at the end. But, definitely do not listen to the show. I mean, I swear to me, alright, I will murder my son. I kind of already did that, but don't listen to the show, okay? Hey, Lucy.
Can you not call me that, okay? We already went over what my name is, okay? It's Lucifer.
Alright, look, Luce. You wanna come with me? I'm gonna go fuck with this guy, Joe.
No, don't do that, okay? Can you just leave him alone?
Yeah, I'm gonna kill his family.
No, don't do that.
I'm gonna give him sores all over his body.
Don't don't do that. That's disgusting.
And I'm gonna kill all of his livestock. You know.
Stop saying things. Just stop.
And I'm gonna blame the whole thing on you. All right, let's go, bud. Remember, don't listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud.
Hey, definitely listen to that show. It's awesome. It's really cool. He's really a dick.
I heard that.
And that song can only mean one thing. Our returning champion, Dr. Ben Davis, is with us. He's a nuclear scientist, physicist. He is a all-around great scientist. He's a snappy dresser, the sassy dancer. Dr. Ben, welcome back to the show.
How's it going?
It's fantastic, man. It's been such a while. So glad to have you back on the show.
I know, right? You always act so excited to see me, and then it's like 6 months before you talk to me again.
Maybe
It's
so.
like, you're great. Get the fuck out of here now.
Maybe so, but we never forget. We never forget. Oh, perfect. So, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a quick bio for those who missed you the last couple of shows you were on as who Dr. Ben Davis is.
Oh, you want me to do that?
Well, of course. Who else can speak about you but yourself?
Okay, so I do this at the cons and stuff all the time. So normally I say nuclear physicist turned computer programmer turned controls engineer turned college professor. So I've actually had 5 major career changes and more jobs than I care to count. But hopefully I learned something out of all that. And, I like to sit around and pontificate on podcasts and go to cons and sit on panels all the time now and try to convince people how brilliant I am, whether they believe me or not.
Nerd.
Nerd.
And if you're a proponent that works on, if you're on Facebook, go to Dr. Ben's page, which is, no, it's not the lounge one. It's the other one. What's the, it's just Dr. Ben, right? Dr. Ben Davis page, right?
How about Facebook.com/Ask Dr. Ben?
Ask Dr. Ben. Thank
I was
you.
going to say,
Thank you.
isn't it Ask Dr. Ben?
It is Ask Dr. Ben.
But Dr. Ben, do you have a TikTok?
I do not have a TikTok.
You need a TikTok. You love
I
it.
got talking on Instagram once, and it's like I never even go there anymore.
No, you can record little quick videos, and people can leave comments and ask kinds of questions, and you can just spit science stuff for a minute or two. It'd be great. I would follow you on TikTok,
but not Facebook.
No. Nobody's on Facebook anymore. Come on.
Yeah, only old people like us.
Yeah, like me, apparently.
Educate the youth on the TikTok.
I have 13,000 followers. Don't tell me I have to start over. 8 years.
That's technology. You're constantly having to update, you got to start all over.
There's one thing we like about Dr. Ben. He is a great science educator, and it is sorely needed in this day and age for sure. So today we want to discuss nuclear power, and not nuclear. God, I hate when people say that.
It's Texas. It's nuclear.
No, I don't care what I said. You guys can't even keep your grid up anyway.
How do we say it?
Nuclear.
Nuclear.
But they say nuclear.
Nuclear.
It's like George W.
I would
Bush.
say nuclear.
Yeah, like George W. Bush. That's the proper way of saying it.
I say it right. Well, I gotta make sure, I pronounce it wrong. I'm like, I know what the word is, and I know how to spell it, but don't ask me to say it.
It's that their fancy nuclear power, right?
I walked around with my eye twitching for 8 years thanks to George Bush.
I bet.
Somehow he would always start talking about nuclear power, and it's like I didn't even know that was a big subject to be discussed. But please say it right if you're going to talk about it.
I totally agree. I think that today we're hoping Dr. Ben can help us dismiss some of the myth around nuclear power and how safe it is. And, hopefully you can be a bit of a guide for us towards that, because you've been around nuclear power yourself for quite a while.
I have, since I was about 22 years old, 23 years old.
That's when you got shot in the heart and you had to build your own arc reactor, right? Or is that another movie altogether?
Yeah, that was different.
So let's maybe a bit of a history lesson then. Dr. Ben, can you give us a bit of a brief history of nuclear power as it is?
Nuclear power, brief history of nuclear power.
I know. It's kind of a hard subject, you know.
Is
No, in the United States, or even if you want to say North America, since you guys are from Canada, it really originated, I think, to a large part with Kyle Rickover, the admiral in the Navy. He pushed for a nuclear navy. He was really a pretty good engineer, and he was all about safety, which was great. It should have made all the difference in the world. And he actually pushed, if I remember right, it was Ike. So this goes back to the Eisenhower era. He actually pushed Atoms for Peace, where he pushed a lot of water moderated nuclear reactors, which should have been a good way to kick things off. So the basics of nuclear energy are really not that hard at all. You take a bunch of uranium and you put it together, and it reaches critical mass, not supercritical mass like a weapon, but critical mass where it starts a chain reaction, a self-sustaining chain reaction. It generates a lot of heat. And then for the most part, that heat boils water, turns into steam, and runs a steam turbine, just like a propane plant would or a coal plant would. So it turns a generator from there.
So it's essentially a nuclear fusion reactor in a power plant is essentially a big steam engine.
It's a big boiler. It's a big source of heat for a boiler.
I think that's interesting to say, because I think a lot of people are thinking of nuclear power as something that's very new and very untested. But if it's a big steam engine, in reality, this is like ancient technology by our standards of technology today. Something we've done forever. For
that matter, a reactor pile, Enrico Fermi did the first one of those in like 1933. So even the reactor itself is pretty old technology at this point. Now, the thing that we're going to hit time and time again, I'm probably going to bring it up probably 4 times in 5 different ways, at least, is that when you look at a chemical reaction, say you're oxidizing coal, right? So you're burning coal, you get on the order of an electron volt of energy out of that reaction every time a coal molecule or carbon molecule attaches to an oxygen molecule. You don't have to know what an electron volt is. It's just a unit of measure. You split an atom, a single atom. You're splitting the nucleus of that atom. It's no longer electrons in their outer orbit that are recombining in some weird way, but you're fundamentally changing the atom, and the release is on the order of 1 million electron volts. So the reactions are literally 6 orders of magnitude more powerful, which, yes, okay, that can be scary, but it's also super efficient compared to anything else we've ever done.
So that bears repeating. So a nuclear reaction is 6 times more, or I should say, on 1 million times more powerful than a chemical.
Right. 6 orders of magnitude.
6 orders of magnitude.
So you're dealing with energies here that are 1 million times greater than a chemical process, whether you're burning coal or whether you're burning natural gas or whatever.
Now, in a world where we desperately need more energy and more power, and with a growing population, why is it that nuclear power doesn't seem to get its day in the sun at this point?
I could say I don't know, because from a logical point of view, I don't know. But we all know, we know that it's from all the bad movies made about atomic power in the 50s. They got everybody sort of scared of it from the very beginning. We know about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the first use of nuclear power that most people know anything about is to blow up cities. Not a good intro, And then on top of that, we know about Chernobyl, Fukushima, and 3 Mile Island, which 2 of those are a joke. 2 of those should have been a non-event, shouldn't even be talked about in the media. And 1 is just completely unexcusable. So there's some explanations as to what happened there, but the others were non-events.
It's ironic to think that 3 events, 3 for lack of a better term, disasters on the nuclear side seem to have more sway with the public opinion than all the thousands of spills that we had with the oil industry, which are just as devastating, if not more, because they take forever to clean. And
It's good we're on camera, right? So
Yeah.
for once, I made notes.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, all right.
Better than me.
There.
And there's one note in particular, and again, I don't keep this stuff in my head, but there's one note in particular I want to throw at you right now. I believe, here it is. Nuclear power has averted 1.84 million deaths.
Wow.
Because coal miners, dams breaking, pollution, and the emphysema and the all of the lung problems that the cancer that comes from all the pollutants. Nuclear power has literally averted 1.84 million deaths, statistically speaking. It's saved 370 times more lives than ever lost in the last 40 years to nuclear power.
Is this stat regarding worldwide or simply located to the United States?
That is worldwide. That's a worldwide number.
It's still a very impressive number.
It is.
It's still a very
And
impressive.
what it cuts out, and there was a wonderful documentary I saw, I don't know, about 5 years back called Nuclear Power Chasing the Dragon's Tail. And one of the points that he makes in that particular documentary is that you take all this nuclear power, you take all this waste that everybody gets so upset about, and you actually take out certain byproducts of that waste and you use it in the medical industry. So nuclear power, some of the byproducts of nuclear reactors are actually used for diagnostics in the medical industry.
Interesting.
The barium you use in stress tests and stuff like that, so you can trace the blood flow through your veins and all that stuff. That's all nuclear based. If you didn't have nuclear reactors, you wouldn't have that stuff to play
That's
with.
why they call it nuclear medicine.
So and so that doesn't add the positive effect. That's just how many deaths were averted because you use nuclear power instead of something more traditional. It still doesn't even count the positive effects of nuclear medicine that goes along with it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, up here we're very close to the American border, and we on the regular basis the nuclear detectors are set off from tourists essentially going into the United States, but having some radioactive isotopes for medicinal purposes in their own body. So on the regular basis, the border kind of shuts down for a few minutes. Like, wait a minute, we got to investigate this, and then we realize, oh no, it's just Uncle Bob with his.
So you're telling me they have what, the Americans?
Yes,
The guys from the U.S. have nuclear
detectors, yes.
counters or something.
They have some kind of detector because if you're going across and you forgot to declare that you were having a radioactive isotope in you, they will find out. They know. They can find out.
I don't know if you guys can actually hear me sighing over the microphone, but that's just God, what a waste of money, technology, effort. God, I mean, I know it's anti-terrorism and all of that, but holy cow.
We're going to be carrying a nuclear bomb over the border there.
That's right. Yeah,
They'll hide it in their coat.
I don't know. I mean, you've seen all these wonderful movies from the 50s with the giant ants that were attacking people because they went through a nuclear blast.
Yep.
Them, maybe that's what influences people,
Yeah.
I just it's kind of like the metal detectors in the airport and the freaking dance they make you do to get on a plane these days.
Yeah.
That's a story I was almost going to Seattle over Labor Day, and I had a meltdown in the airport. I'm surprised I didn't get arrested. But yeah, it took me and my wife a solid hour to get through airport security, just because of stupidity. And so what's the point? The point is okay, I'm an Osama bin Laden type, right? And I have this vast network of terrorists at my disposal. And I somehow have managed to make a dirty bomb. I mean, not even a real nuclear bomb, but say a dirty bomb or something that's got nuclear components in it. So I have at least 100 minions working for me.
Oh, yeah.
And they all have assault rifles. And so this fucking weekend warrior's going to stop them if they decide to cross the border with a nuclear weapon and blow something up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all feel good bullshit for soccer bombs. That's all it is. It doesn't change a damn thing.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
A bit earlier, we were talking about the three catastrophes that everybody
Mm-hmm.
kind of knows about nuclear events, and we talk about the 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. You mentioned that 2 of them were a non-event, and one of them was something that never should have happened. You care to elaborate on that?
I was actually going to ask.
Yeah, thanks for leading me in on that one. So 0 deaths in 3 Mile Island. That was the first one. Some radioactive steam was released. There was a partial meltdown of a reactor. Nobody died. Nobody even came close to dying. You know, and the way I like to tell this story is, if you'd asked the engineers at the nuclear power plant, it was a win. Some of the safety systems failed. Some things went wrong. Some bad decisions were made, but the system in general worked. Nothing bad happened. Nobody died. The worst that happened is a little bit of radioactive steam that couldn't even be measured above the background got released.
Wow, that is
And we
nothing.
all went back and lived our lives again. You know,
Yep.
like no big deal. It's funny that accident happened at the same time the movie The China Syndrome came out. And that movie is such bullshit. By the way, I bought it hook, line, and sinker as a kid, right? But I remember one scene from that movie in particular where they're in the control room and the guy's looking at, and he's like, no, we have coolant water in there. Everything's fine. And, you know, I don't understand why the reactor's getting hotter. And then all of a sudden this engineer walks up and he taps the little glass on the needle, and the needle breaks free and suddenly it drops. And it's like, that is such exquisite bullshit. As if 1 meter, you know, the only way you knew the water level in that reactor. No, alarms would be going off all over the place. There's multiple stations that are redundant. Everybody would have known there was a problem long before this one dipshit walks up and taps this meter and the needle drops.
You do that on your 56 Chevy, you know,
Yeah,
check the fuel gauge, see if it's still working.
And it's not like, hey, it's not like nobody ever tests this equipment to make sure it works. You know, just run through dry runs and make sure this works.
Right.
So 3 Mile Island, it's the biggest shame about 3 Mile Island is that 40 years later, we're still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was truly a non-event. So, okay. Then you fast forward to 10 years ago with Fukushima.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody died at Fukushima.
Right.
The deaths at Fukushima were due to the tsunami.
Yes, yes.
And they make this big deal out about, you know, that you see a lot of the publications about the nuclear disaster and they show this big map. All show the same damn map. And it's a map of the whole Pacific Ocean with this red zone and then this bluish zone. Those are wave heights of the tsunami. It's got nothing to do with radiation. That's how high the wave got in various parts of the ocean as this tsunami went across the ocean. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
it was an intensity map of the tsunami. It had nothing to do with radiation at all.
Jeez.
But it looks real scary.
It does.
Exactly.
I remember.
Oh, it looks scary as hell, especially the colors they used and all that. It was, you know,
Gets from red to dark brown and to almost black. You know, I remember seeing emails of advocacy groups, especially that were talking about wild salmon. That we particularly remember saying, we might lose all our wild salmon stock in the Pacific because of Fukushima. So really,
yeah, and that the radioactive fallout was going to make its way to BC.
Yes,
into Canada.
All the salmon's radioactive and blah blah blah. And I was telling people even back then, it's like, if you have salmon you're afraid to eat, send it to me.
Did we get any Teenage Mutant Ninja salmon there? Did we?
They walk around. They got the third eye.
If it's not bad enough that I would eat the salmon, I would even share it with the dogs. So if I'm willing to give it to the dogs, then I'm obviously not afraid of it.
The same as me.
But I think people. I think we get the point here that especially when you're looking at popular culture, take for example the show that I've always loved, The Simpsons, and of course the iconic fish with the 3 eyes near the nuclear plant. This is what people think, and this is how they get their information about nuclear power.
And then you have Homer Simpson as a radiation safety officer.
Yeah,
right?
that's the real problem there.
That definitely instills confidence in the whole industry.
Yeah, I mean the characters in there are also the nuclear plant is always dripping green
Yes.
liquid
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
the place.
That's what I was gonna say. Radiation's green liquid, right?
That's right. Radiation is green liquid.
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, it doesn't have to be either, though, right?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it can be green. And plutonium, that's some nasty stuff because not only is it radioactive, it is toxic. And it's a man-made chemical that doesn't exist in nature. And so, yeah, that's stuff you don't want to play around with. The radiation will not only kill you, it's like a heavy metal poison type situation. Even a little bit of it will kill you from the chemical reactions in your body. If you could somehow make plutonium that wasn't radioactive, the stuff would still be deadly just from a chemical point of view. And I think, if I remember right, I think plutonium's got a green color to it.
Oh, maybe that's why. That's probably where it all comes from then. Huh?
Yeah.
And again, in commercial power reactors, you don't put plutonium in there.
No.
So that's not something we're even talking about. And that's part of what the problem is so much gets conflated with the nuclear weapons industry.
Yeah.
Which takes a whole lot more effort to defend versus the nuclear power industry, which is pretty, by all accounts, pretty benevolent. So yeah, people always hit me up with, what about the, Superfund site in Hanford, Washington, and all the big mess they made there. And it's like, oh, that's Manhattan Project. This goes back to the 40s when they were trying to build the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with commercial reactors. Never did.
No, the only place I can
That's
remember.
the-
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Oh well, that's the thing is we only talk about the bad stuff, right? Like we don't talk about the nuclear reactors that were just running fine. Like when you're talking about the Navy ran the Enterprise from like the 60s to 2012.
Yeah, I mean, literally almost with the exception of 3 reactors, all of them had worked just fine and, lived an entire life cycle, which, by the way, the average life expectancy of the nuclear reactor is somewhere between 60 to 80 years. That's not one I've looked up. But these things run for 80 years, and most of the time they run without incident at all.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Is it a significant source of power in the U.S.?
It is 10% of.
It's not bad.
Let me think. I think it's actually 20% of U.S. energy.
That's quite a
That's
bit.
significant.
It's still overshadowed by coal and gas in the States.
More notes. You want me to read my next note at you?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Oh, please do it. Lay it on us.
I mean, we want to talk about it from the safety and the environmentalism point of view, but here's the reality of it. In the past decade, renewable energy consumption is up 21 exajoules. Again, you don't have to know what an exajoule is. It's a measure of energy, total energy.
Okay.
While overall energy is up 51 exajoules. So in the past decade, we've made windmills and solar cells that can generate about 21 exajoules of power. And that's not power, that's total energy, which, let's get our facts straight. So 21 exajoules total. We've consumed 51 exajoules. In the last year, China alone has added 30 gigawatts of coal-fired power, more than offsetting the 17 gigawatts that was retired worldwide. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you that there's 1.2 billion people in this world that don't have electricity, and they want it. And it's not our right to tell them they can't have it.
Right.
As we sit in our air-conditioned houses, in the light in the middle of the night, doing podcasts and all the other things we do.
Exactly.
So it's happening. And if you tell them that nuke's not an option and, isn't solar power great? Okay. And they'll make as much solar power as they can, but they're never going to make enough solar power and wind power to even keep up with the increases in demand. So it's a game you can't win.
Yeah, because according to your numbers there was 31 exajoules of energy that was not from the renewables that was still consumed nonetheless. So that's more coal power plant. That's more thermal. More, yeah.
We've been able to produce 21 exajoules of energy in the entire renewable sector.
Yeah, you
And
said there
we're
was
up
one total.
51 exajoules of energy in the same amount of time.
Yeah,
Which
so
means we
30.
keep falling further and further behind as time goes on.
So where does nuclear energy fall in that? Is it a renewable source?
Well, I'm not counting nuclear as a renewable.
Okay.
Because the environmentalists don't count it as a renewable.
Yeah,
But
of course.
that is the point we're getting at. Is if you're worried about choking to death in greenhouse gases, this is your only option. People want to act like they have other options, and it's not because people want to demonize me and say you just don't like wind power and you don't like something. No, do it. Knock yourself out. Make as much of it as you possibly can, but you're still going to fall short. And now we're back to the point I told you I was going to hit you with at least 4 times before the night was over. It's that factor of 1,000,000 in energy that you get from nuclear power versus any kind of chemical process. You can never outdo 6 orders of magnitude.
Right.
If you got $1 in your pocket, you can't buy a cup of coffee. But if you got $1 million in your pocket, you can buy whatever the fuck you want.
That's very true.
And so that's what we're looking at, So to say that nuclear isn't an option, it's horrible, take it off the table, whatever. Okay. Watch the polar ice caps melt.
Yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Watch the sea levels rise. I'm 57. I'll live a full life. You guys deal with it.
I'm with you. I don't.
So going back, so we talked about 3 Mile Island. We started talking about Fukushima. What really happened there at Fukushima? Do you have any idea?
Was the
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They put the backup generators in the basement. The tidal wave came in. Sorry, we don't call it a tidal wave anymore. It's the tsunami, which is a better name for it. It's not got nothing to do with the tides. Tidal wave came in, flooded the basement, and the backup generators didn't work. The power grid went down, and so the cooling pumps didn't work in the nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors overheated, and you had a meltdown. That's bad. That's a very bad thing. Now, the other thing that we definitely want to get, the other point, we would talk about whatever you want, but the other point we want to get in here is that when you talk about 3 Mile Island, when you talk about Chernobyl, and you talk about Fukushima, you're talking about generation 1 and generation 2 reactors. They go back 30, 40, 50 years. We're up to generation 5 reactors now, and they're passively safe. By passively safe, I mean that you could build what's called a pebble bed reactor. They've done the test. They've actually demonstrated it to people. You build a pebble bed reactor, you're getting power out of it. The operator sits there and randomly turns all the dials and walks away from it. And you cannot make the thing melt down because it's fundamentally different in its design.
So, because like the generation 1 and generation 2, so those were the ones that, like, if they lost power for a significant amount of time, right? Like, what was it, like 4 or 5 days? I think it was.
It can be a lot less than that because it is a tremendous energy source.
Right.
And it does have to be treated with respect, and it is very dangerous, but with great power comes great responsibilities, right? Uncle Ben taught us that.
That's right. Uncle Ben and Dr. Ben. I'd say we get it all.
So, if you lose your cooling system in a traditional nuclear reactor, you got a real problem because that thing's going to overheat and melt very quickly.
Right.
It's
And
like
you don't have
the
that.
radiator in your car. It's going to throw a rod pretty quickly if you keep trying to drive it after that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these new ones have gotten around that issue. That's what you're
Yes.
saying. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Is it just done with like redundant systems that if one fails, this one starts, and if that one fails, this one starts? And if
The redundant systems were there even for the generation 2. This is a little different. Like, my personal favorite's a pebble bed reactor. That's why I brought it up. Think of a billiard ball, and you make a couple hundred of these things, and they've all got a certain amount of uranium. They're mostly ceramic, so a billiard ball is a very apt description of them. There's the size and shape and generally the material of a billiard ball, but they've got uranium inside them, spread out through inside them, right? So it's not like a uranium core or anything. And you put them together, they get warm. They get quite hot. You can force hot air through them, and you can run a boiler with them. But they never get hot enough to melt. So even if you turn off the cooling system, even if you turn off the forced air, they'll sit there and get hot, but they never get hot enough to melt. So there's never a problem from beyond there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Is
Something a lot of people probably don't know.
what is it that makes them stop from overheating like that?
There's just not enough close contact between the uranium to generate thousands of degrees of heat.
Because
like
it's
in
in
a
a
traditional
ceramic
nuclear reactor.
because it's in a ceramic casing essentially, and that's
Yeah.
why it doesn't get close enough to actually. That's interesting.
They get up to 600, 700, 800 degrees, somewhere in that range.
Ah,
But it's still not hot enough to melt the ceramic that they're encapsulated in.
Very
But
interesting.
you can get a mean sear on your steak.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice little fire pit if you go in there and look at it, but it's not going to melt and go into the water table or
good pizza oven's
blow
like
up
900
and
degrees.
go into the atmosphere or any of that other stuff.
That's a very fundamentally different design
Mhm.
than what we think of when we think of a nuclear reactor.
Yeah,
and what makes it seem a lot safer.
Hold on, you guys
For
weren't thinking of a
whatever
bunch of
reason-
billiard balls?
Pardon me?
You guys weren't thinking of a bunch of billiard balls?
No.
That's like what I was always picturing.
Oh.
Okay. All right, my bad.
And for whatever reason, a lot of the proponents like thorium power, thorium salt reactors. And so this is molten salt. So again, think of salt, get it hot enough to melt and turn molten on you. So it's 600, 700 degrees,
Mhm.
And it's got a coolant and it's making steam and driving a turbine even at the 600 and 700 degrees. But the thing about that is if the coolant fails, you've got little plugs in the bottom of this because it's liquid, and the fissile material that's in the liquid in the thorium salt. You got these little drain plugs in the bottom of this thing that if they go over a certain temperature, they melt. They're made out of some other salt that's got a slightly higher melting point or something. And so these little, if the thorium gets too hot, these little drain plugs melt, and it drains the whole fuel of the reactor down into a big pan where nothing's close enough together to go supercritical on you.
Wow.
Okay.
Very
So
interesting.
again, if anything goes really bad, this thing just turns itself off.
I love that. That's
Jeez.
great.
I was talking to a proponent of nuclear power, and he kept on bringing up thorium, and I, in my ignorance, I was just listening to them and said, "Okay, that sounds great," but I had no idea about it. Now I'm told thorium is not as powerful an energy producer as something like uranium, but it's much safer. Would you say?
That's right. These guys do tend to run at lower temperatures. And again, you think about design projects from the 50s, the 40s and 50s. They were like, give me all the power and all the heat you can, I'll drive a turbine with it. And they assumed that their safety systems would be good enough to keep everything in check. So they weren't as worried about catastrophic failure as they probably should have been with a power source that's fundamentally 1,000,000 times more powerful than anything they've ever dealt with before.
Yeah,
But just because they didn't design it right in the beginning doesn't mean that you couldn't design it right. People just had to go, oh, wait, maybe that's not the way to do that. I mean, I remember telling my physics class, I don't ever know what happened, but I read a Scientific American article or something. I remember telling my physics class back in, 92 or something, that the Indians were talking about building a nuclear power plant, and they were going to build them at the base of the Himalayas. And somebody came along and said, guys, maybe you don't want to build a nuclear power plant on a fault zone. Maybe,
probably not a good idea.
maybe you should skip that. So it's great. I mean, I have as much faith in technology as anybody, but people have a little bit too much faith in technology sometimes. Do the simple stuff first, like don't build your nuclear power plants on the fault zones. You do that, you'll probably be okay. You make them to where they're passively safe, and then you're probably even more likely to be okay. But this is the next level. This is what we have to do to progress as human beings. And are we going to make mistakes as we go? The thing that kills me is all the people that talk about fusion power. And it's like, we'll just skip nuclear power and go to fusion. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a 100 million degree, plasma and confine it to magnetic field and ask what happens when the magnetic bottle fails on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
That doesn't, just because nothing's tarnished this particular technology yet, because they can't even get it to work, doesn't mean that there's not going to be an accident with it, particularly if you don't think really hard about how to design it.
A question out of left field there. You were talking about fusion. For the longest time, people have been talking about cold fusion. Is that really something that can actually happen, or is that just like a
Oh,
boogeyman?
that was unfortunate. I was in grad school when that happened. That was our buddy Pons and Fleshman out there in Brigham Young University out in Salt Lake City.
Damn Mormons.
Oh,
They usually do a little
Oh,
better
Brigham.
than this, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. They reported cold fusion. We all got excited about it. It was, the idea was that you had a lattice work of some metals, some exotic metals, and you ran chemical reactions that then forced the nuclei at the surface of these metals to come in and get close enough together that the fusion reaction occurred. And it sounded really cool that you could use a chemical process to get these nuclei close enough together, even though the repelling energy, like charges repel, right? Even though the repelling energy is monstrously high, we all got excited about it. It's like, we got to reproduce this experiment. And so all these labs went out and tried to reproduce their experiment. It's like, we can't get this to work.
Oh.
And
I think
so
something out of a religious school failed the scientific method. Really?
Right, especially a
I'm sure-
religious school that believes you can get prophecy from a rock and a hat.
Yeah.
the guy that sticks his head in a hat and reads the golden plates that, I don't know how he knows they're
Nobody
golden.
else
But somebody else can see them, right?
Right.
How can they be invisible and golden at the same time?
He bid it. He bid it like a coin. It's
It was Braille. It was Braille.
Tasted right. Okay.
Ancient Egyptian Braille.
So back to back
So
to
then there was a big investigation because it's like, what went wrong? I mean, nobody's accused them or whatever. It's like, scientists make mistakes. We're all human. There was a big investigation as to what went wrong, and they sent a bunch of high-powered scientists out there, and they looked, and it was not obvious, what had gone wrong. But eventually, somebody figured out that they had a vacuum pump underneath the bench where they'd set up their experiment. And, vacuum pump's a motor at its core. And so when they needed to make a vacuum, the vacuum pump would run, the motor would get hot, the heat would rise from the vacuum pump, come up through the table, and ever so slightly warm up their solution, which they were attributing to fusion reactions. And it was nothing more than thermal effects from this vacuum pump underneath the table.
It was convection. That's funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you move the vacuum pump over to the left a little bit, suddenly no heat.
Yeah, you get a longer hose, you move the vacuum pump across the room, and suddenly your cold fusion goes away.
Shit.
Interesting.
But at least it's vacuum seal fresh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
You add them all nice and fresh in a nice steel bag.
So obviously society hasn't accepted nuclear energy really anywhere. Can we attribute a lot of that to Chernobyl then?
Well, no, actually, Chernobyl, I was sitting there. That was, if I remember right, that was somewhere around 1988.
Yeah, I was
a senior in college, and it was before I'd even decided to go into nuclear physics. I was just a physics major. I didn't know what specialty I was going to go into, but I was looking at that going, this is going to kill the nuclear industry. This is the last nail in the coffin, because it was way worse than 3 Mile Island or anything else. But it's like, oh boy, there's some ammunition for Greenpeace to lose their shit over.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. It was basically a Generation 1 reactor that was had graphite moderators in it instead of water, and it was actually working. And they did some crazy test on it. They turned off the control systems in the middle of the night to see what would happen.
Oh my!
And they were trying to make sure that the backup systems worked, and the backup systems didn't work. And they didn't have a backup plan when they ran this test. What happens if the backup systems don't work?
Oh my God.
And so now you have an overheating reactor. This is where this went wrong. You have an overheating reactor. You basically have coal in the middle of this overheating reactor. and it builds up pressure. It explodes, which means now you have oxygen coming in from the outside and hitting this coal.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter how many firefighters you call and how much water you dump on top of this thing. The hot nuclear material is going to make the water evaporate, and it's going to reignite the graphite inside it. And so now you have radioactive smoke going up into the air,
Oh, that's
billowing, big time, and it's unfortunate. It makes my eye twitch just thinking about it, because it was nothing but Russians being irresponsible. And it's not that, I mean, my God, I've met a few Russian nuclear physicists, and they're better than most American nuclear physicists. So it's not
Would
like
you say that they were rushing the job?
Oh.
We're
5
gonna
points. 5 points for
We're
Meadow
gonna have
Mouse.
to Benjamin the dad joke award and take it away from Kevin.
I don't know, man. You actually made me laugh. It's hard for me to be mad at him, but he actually makes me laugh.
So now I'm glad that I didn't do my, thorium isn't as strong as hulkium joke, but I'm glad I didn't do that, because can't have too many of these in one show.
Ay.
Might have to molder your way through that one. All right.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get a reaction out of me if you keep making these bad jokes.
Dr. Ben's
What kind of reaction? A nuclear reaction?
Maybe.
Going nuclear.
Oh boy. Oh, so
yeah, that was just disaster in every way you could look at it. It was a bad design, made for bad reasons, extended for way too long, and then you had some engineers saying, "Hey, let's play with this thing and let's see what we can do with it if we play around with it."
So ultimately, it was human error that caused the failure.
Oh, it's officially attributed as human error.
Yeah, so
the
it
accident
really
reports.
it sucks that so many people blame the nuclear power itself.
Well,
rather
and
than-
you could be afraid of it. It's perfectly reasonable to be afraid of it and say you have to be careful with this shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to do a talk at the cons. I haven't done it since COVID, of course. But the science of explosives, Dr. Ben blows shit up. You deal with things that are volatile, you better know how to handle them.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be nuclear power. It's
Yeah, be careful when you deal with me.
I mean, even in the popular language, even when you hear like reporters talking and they talk about the nuclear option, they don't even talk about a nuclear armament at this point. They talk about the end solution, the nuclear option to stop whatever bill. I mean, it's even in the language that nuclear is associated with negative. So how can we really be surprised as people, as soon as they hear the word nuclear, they just put up their shields?
Well, and again, that's a weapons reference, right?
Yeah.
We're going to destroy the world other than let this bill pass, or we're going to threaten you with nuclear Armageddon if you keep pushing this forward.
Yeah.
That's a weapons analogy. That's not a nuclear power analogy. That's not a commercial nuclear power.
Yeah. Except that people maybe interpret it, not necessarily interpret it, but internalize it.
I blame Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, it definitely has a bad stigma attached to it.
So what can we do as normal citizens to maybe start reversing that stigma? I mean, aside listening to this podcast.
It's difficult to say, and I think that's part of the problem. Is that the people that are against it feel very strongly about it, and they are very vocal about it. And the people that are for it, okay, go do it. There's no complaints coming out of them. There's no verbiage coming out of them because they're okay with it being there.
Yeah.
So it's the greasy, I'm sorry, it's the squeaky wheel.
That gets the grease.
That get greased, right?
Yeah.
With a greasy wheel that's squeaking or whatever you want to say, because the types that are doing this. But again, these are people that, I hate to say it, I don't mean to be condescending and all that, but these are people that don't understand the science. They're just afraid of it. They're reacting out of fear, and they're very loud about it. I mean, my God, my mother, growing up, you're going to kill yourself, well, okay. I came pretty close a few times, so she wasn't entirely wrong. You know, but anytime I wanted to do anything, you know, Mom was like, you know, you're going to kill yourself. You got to, no, you're not going to do that. You just reflexively no, you know, and that's not how you make progress with things. You can't just reflexively say no to everything.
The 5G is going to give you the coronavirus.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, even when you think about it, one of the biggest proponents of nuclear power is the U.S. military. I mean, most of their ships are running on nuclear, their battleship and stuff like that. Their submarines, right? They're not running on diesel anymore. But yet again, you have this association with the military and weapons because they're using nuclear power. So
yeah, and even nuclear power was proved out, you know, through the military before it was used commercially.
yeah, exactly. So you would think that, you know, civilians would realize, hey, you know, if we've been powering our nuclear subs forever without any incidents, maybe this is one thing to look into.
Yeah. And it might be that some things got covered up. It's entirely possible. But how many ships have you ever heard of having a nuclear incident, you know, with their power plants,
exactly.
you know, submarines or whatever? The Russians were purported to have a problem, you know, but again, that was back during the Cold War, kept super secret. And maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, kind of thing. There was one case, I mean, the United States actually built a salvage ship to go out there and get the sub that blew up and sank. So it did happen once, even though we don't know exactly what happened. It probably was related to an explosion, you know, in the reactor.
Yeah.
But again, it was an older submarine. It was the Russians probably not adhering to safety standards in the middle of the Cold War as tightly as they should have. But yeah, this is, I mean, I'll grant that to anybody. This is stuff you don't play with. If you're going to use it, you have to use it responsibly and carefully. You know, so nothing wrong with that. It's just the idea that, you know, that you shouldn't use it at all. You know, I don't like anybody telling me you shouldn't do something at all.
No, it's such a weak argument because it's akin to somebody saying we shouldn't drive cars because the Model T was dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we have progressed since the Model T, and we've done the same thing with nuclear power. We have, you know, like you said, 5th generation reactors. By the way, would it be possible to build one of these reactors in outer space?
You could, you know, the problem there, like if you had a moon base or something, that would be a little helpful.
Yeah, I'm just thinking you need a really big extension cord all the way down to Earth. But
well, you know, you can actually transmit. It's not super efficient, but you can actually transmit energy, you know, via, you know, like a big satellite dish or something. There are people that have talked about some things like this. The biggest problem there is economics. I mean, you know, when you still talk about Elon Musk is trying to do something about it, but when you still talk about putting something into low Earth orbit, it's still $10,000 a pound.
Yeah.
And uranium's pretty heavy shit, man. It's denser than lead. That's why the military uses depleted uranium in their, you know, in their guns and like the A-10 Warthog. You know, so to get that much tonnage into space to have a nuclear power plant in space would be, you know, problematic. It'd be expensive.
I see. Speaking of uranium, I know that during the Trump election in 2016, it was a big topic of conversation. A lot of people were saying that uranium is depleting as a resource. Is there any truth to that? Are we running out of uranium?
Oh dear God, no! What the hell were they even saying with that?
Well, there was this whole thing with Hillary Clinton selling the rights of uranium to Russia and all that stuff. It was all nonsense. But
yeah, I do remember something about that.
Amidst all that, there were people saying that we're running out of uranium worldwide.
I don't think so. You know, here's the deal. This is another thing because we haven't talked about the waste yet, right? So your typical water reactor, 1950s vintage, you know, atoms for peace, all that, use uranium-235. Uranium-235 is about 1% of all the uranium ore. It's the really fissile stuff. You can make a breeder reactor that turns all the common uranium-238 into something more fissile. I hate to say plutonium, but that is what we're talking about here. So there are reactor designs that are more than happy to burn the fuel that's already out there and get a lot more power out of it than was ever gotten out of it originally, because even the concentrated fuel that they put in reactors is only about 3% U-235, which means if you build a reactor that can burn U-238, and you can build a reactor that burns U-238, that's not a dispute. It's not something that's done on paper and has never been tried. It's been done.
Okay.
So you can build reactors that burn U-238, and we could start by burning all the waste that everybody's worried about. And that'd probably keep us going for the next 100 years or so. And then we can worry about whether we're running out of uranium ore or not.
What if we burn all the nuclear waste? Aren't we going to not have any Godzillas running around?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a real problem, not having Godzilla running around.
How are we going to fight the Megazord? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like you got to take the bad with the good. You're not going to have the Incredible Hulk running around either, probably.
That's right.
Excuse me, that was gamma radiation.
Yes,
same difference. It's green.
Dr. Ben, in finishing there, my friend, if I was to ask you, where do you think the future of nuclear power lies? What would your answer be?
It's been looking really bleak for a long, long time. But as I prepared my notes for this talk, it's really what I'm deciding from all of this is that people can bitch about it all they want, but eventually folks are going to have to come to the conclusion that you cannot live without it. Literally, the world cannot live without it. So it's just a question of how bad you're going to let things get before somebody finally says, we're going to have to start building nuclear plants. We're either going to have to start building nuclear plants or start living in the dark. Those are the options. And nobody's going to opt for living in the dark.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be an environmentalist until you cut their power off.
Yeah.
And then they're not environmentalists anymore.
No, there are plenty of countries in Europe, like France, for example, has got a ton of nuclear power, and they've had no issue whatsoever.
75%. They don't have a lot of natural resources, and France has been running at around 75% nuclear power since the end of World War II.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
And France has not had any accidents. And it begs the question, why have France not had any of these incidents? And a lot of that has to do with France has built a lot of nuclear reactors. They've standardized parts. They have control systems that are in place and standardized. And they have a big training program for all the plant owners. And not every plant they make is a one-off customization of some other plant somebody made 30 years ago.
Wow.
It's just like one of the wheels fall off your car. Well, wheels don't fall off your goddamn car because they've been making cars for 100 years. And they've made millions of them. And the cars have become a lot more reliable. The more of them they make, the more mistakes they learn from.
Exactly. Dr. Ben, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. Really, really appreciate this look into nuclear power. If people want to find out more about Ask Dr. Ben and everything like that, where can they find you?
Well, you know where you can find me. You can find me on Facebook.com/AskDrBen. DR, not doctor spelled out. And of course, there's AskDrBen.org, which is my website.
Perfect. And soon to be also Ask Dr. Ben on TikTok, right?
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I'm kind of having my day with social media. I don't know if I give up on Facebook, I don't know if I'm going to do it again. It's kind of exhausting.
It's great. All you got to do is point to stuff. You just type out the information and you're like,
all you have to do is literally you just download TikTok and you just hit record and you just talk about something for a minute and then you just put it out there in the world.
A minute.
I might have
you can go a little bit longer, but generally most people are watching for about a minute.
We've been going an hour, right? When have you heard me talk about anything?
Look, you can do a series. People love part 2s and 3s.
It'd be part 90 by the time he got done with the first concept.
That's okay. He's like my series of, and just fire things off.
I had big plans back in the day. I was going to make YouTube videos. And I was going to do all this kinds of stuff, and at some point, work just gets in the way too.
Yeah, I understand. We understand.
Responsibilities.
I know having a real job sucks, man.
I believe it's our friend R used to say that. It says, "My job is getting in the way of my work."
Yeah.
Dr. Ben, thank you so much for being on the show. But before I let you go, I gotta have you say, "Hi, this is Dr. Ben, and I took a left in the valley."
Hi, this is Dr. Ben, and hi to the left of the valley.
Sounds good enough. Thank you. And that was our friend Dr. Ben talking about nuclear power.
That's
Always
so
a
awesome.
pleasure,
Mhm.
Dr. Ben. I end up learning so much more every time he comes on. It's like it's a great, great.
And
great
look at
thing.
that. Like, there's so many notes we didn't get to.
And
so.
still too many Bens.
Yes.
It's Dr. Ben, and then there's Benjamin.
And he's much more stately than Ben, so
That's what I was
much
thinking.
prefer it.
Well, he's
Yeah.
got the doctor before his, so I mean, that's pretty
Yeah,
stately.
I think if he went by Dr. Benjamin, it would be overselling it.
That's overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Definitely
Yeah, you're right.
overkill.
I think so
Yeah.
too. It's interesting to see that a lot of countries in Europe seem to be moving towards nuclear power, and also in Asia. Not really talking about China here, but the other countries around, Japan, for example, are moving towards that.
Did they, after Fukushima, are they still using it there, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't the only nuclear plant. They
Yeah,
had
I knew that.
there,
I just
right?
wasn't sure. Anyway.
So that's very interesting. It's interesting to see if Canada might move that way eventually. I mean, I'm sure we
You know,
have
we
a
have
couple
hydropower, though,
but
and-
we have a lot of hydropower here.
Yeah.
A lot of hydropower.
Well, here's the thing:
It's in the West.
like he was talking about with France, due to their limited natural resources. So you're looking at France, you're looking at Japan. These are the countries that are already forced into it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, Japan being a big.
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
isolated.
Canada's a pretty big dang country for how many people we have.
And you
here.
have plenty of natural resources,
Yeah,
including
you're
oil.
welcome, California.
Yeah.
We give you power.
sell-
Well,
we
we
sell-
don't give you power. We sell it to you.
Yeah, we sell a lot of power
Cheap.
in California.
Fuckers.
So we pretty much just got to wait for climate change to screw up all of the
That's
natural
right.
resources there.
Hopefully it doesn't go that bad. Well, thank you so much to Dr. Ben for being our guest on our show today. And
Yeah.
thank you to my co-hosts, Sabrina, Benjamin, and Brent Lee for being here. And thank you for listening. You can follow us at leftofthevalley.ca. You can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can go on Facebook. What is it again?
Facebook.com/left at the valley.
Yes, and you can do Twitter on @LATV podcast.
And YouTube at youtube.com/left at the valley.
Exactly. Give us a 5-star review. It helps us. It helps others find the show. And you also can become a patron at patreon.com/LATV. Perfect. Anything else I'm missing?
Plugs for unapologetics while you
that's-
pull up your calendar.
That's what I'm doing.
That's Brent's job.
Oh
That's
yeah. Yeah, check out Unapologetics every Wednesday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a lot of fun. We just watch clips.
I got something wacky for the next show too.
Yeah, all right.
I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
All right, coming up next week, we'll be talking to Bernard Laborel, who's been on the show before. We'll talk about Abraham. He's got his new book coming out. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking to Spencer Kurtz. He's a marine biologist. We're starting to become a marine biologist. We'll be talking about that and climate change. We'll be talking to Dr. Clint Heacock as well. Yes, you'll talk about Christian dominionism. That should be
exciting.
interesting. And of course, begin towards the end of the month of December, we'll have Tom and Cecil of Cognitive Dissonance.
Yes.
I've never heard of them.
No,
no,
me
no,
either.
they're flash in the pan
But-
kind of guys.
Yeah, we're gonna take a one more hiatus right at the end of the year.
Yeah,
There's going to be a week.
we
where
might be
we're
going
gonna
on
be off
we might
near
be going on
Christmas.
vacation.
Might be, we are. But it's Christmas.
You are,
Doing it,
motherfucker,
damn it.
you are.
We need a vacation.
You guys should join us. We're thinking of going to Mexico. You guys should join us.
Yeah, it's not hard.
okay. That's
We're
like
gonna
right
go on
down
the
the street
eastern
from
side,
Benjamin.
too.
Skip across the border for you.
Yeah,
I have to
literally,
get a
Benjamin Sneak.
passport again. So I have to. It's been too long since I left the country.
Oh,
No, you don't need one of those. I got a guy. You're fine.
you'll fit.
Don't worry about it. Don't
Thank
worry
you so
about
much, guys. Until next time.
Ooh.
And we're back.
And hi from the left of the valley too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
Is that what you said?
Okay.
Did you say from or to?
Huh?
Did you say from or to when you told me to do it?
No, you're good. You got it.
I-
I'm just messing with you.
I took a left of the valley, like taking a left. You took a left.
You take a left at the valley.
Well, tell me one more time what you want me to tell you. What time it is.
It's too late. It's in the
I need
database.
like
it's
cue
over.
cards for this, Kevin.
Wait, and didn't we lay a track down for this already?
Yeah, you sent me
Just
a
play it
Turning
all
left
one.
of the valley or whatever the